Okay, we're going to talk about predators on the homestead. We already talked about black bears. We spoke of lethal removal of black bears. We want to talk about dissuasion of black bears on the homestead. Or any bears, really. The number one thing you can do to dissuade black bear encounters with your livestock and animals is to lock them up an hour before sunset and not let them out until an hour after sunrise. Be around a lot. But every single pen we have has a door. Even these little chicken pens has a door, so we can close them at night. This way, yes, the predator can smell them, but it can't see them walking around. Sight is important to every predator. It's sight that triggers a lot of attacks on livestock and animals and humans. What the animal is doing, darting around and things like that. So if you eliminate sight, and the hour before sunset and the hour after sunrise is because the most prominent hunting times for all predators is an hour before and after sunrise and sunset. So you're negating that particular risk. Another way to negate risks is be careful in composting. I've had lots of people that I've talked to that moved down here and didn't know there was a bear problem, and I tried to tell them not to compost, and of course they never listen. People often don't. You don't want to compost anything that's sweet smelling, sugary, any kind of fruit. Melons, they don't seem to care about, the bears. But as far as apples, pears, they don't seem to care about citrus. And also, of course, be careful of your pet food left out. So any kind of vegetable matter, obviously don't compost meat. I don't think very many people think that's a good idea to begin with. But, and then be careful of drop fruit on your trees. We have an orchard here that is a natural bear attractant, and the bears come, and the porcupines actually are attracted by an apple orchard too. We've had 2 different porcupine attacks on our dogs. But yeah, the drop fruit, you want to keep that picked up so you don't have that very strong, thank you for putting more on the ground, Trig. That very strong apple scent of rotting apples can attract bears. So pick up all the drop fruit, and if you have an animal that eats it, then great. But don't compost it. And if you do, then I've heard some people say, well, I'll just put an electric fence around it. Well, you can do that, but the bear's already been attracted by the smell of the rotting fruit. So, and coyotes actually are really attracted to orchards as well. There's not a lot that you can do about them coming to the orchard. You could electric fence it, but like I say, they're already there because of the smell. So the only reason this is fenced is because of the pony, because he'll come and eat the apples, and the apples are bad for him because he'll founder with too much sugar. So there's not a lot you can do about this other than picking up the drop fruit. There was one year we had a really, really bad bear, and I picked every apple off of these trees to try to get him to go away, and he just kept coming back anyway. And then he started breaking into animal pens. So sometimes it's better for them to find something like that, like they normally know there's supposed to be apples, so they come to that, than to come and not find that. Last year was a really bad year. We had everything froze really late, and we had no apples, and the bears were really, really bad. And we'll show you our bad bear. Now, you can also, besides enacting lockup, which doesn't solve everything, have good, strong pins. I showed before on one video the solid back here on our kid pin that eliminates, because there's a lot of bears coming from that direction, it eliminates the bears being able to see through the slats and watch the baby goats to see what they're doing. So even though they're screaming in the pen, like that one's horse, but even though they're screaming in the pen and that's a predator attractant, you've got the fence there. Also, perimeter fences with bears help. Bears go for what is easy, okay? So if you make it hard for them, then they're going to give up. and go look for easier than what you've got. Make strong pins, like my dad took and put a board across the top of all of the fences, and that helps negate some of the predation issues. Keep your pins clean. That's another thing we clean every day. But be willing and able on your homestead to enact lethal forms of predator removal if necessary. I would caution people to carry, if you have heavy bear activity, carry bear mace. This is what I've started doing. As of last year, I carried bear mace with me everywhere because the bears are really, really bad. I've got a heavy coat, you can imagine, and large pockets. I also carry a pocket knife. It's better than nothing. Be aware that it can be difficult to dissuade a very determined bear if he's decided to be naughty. But so last year we had to lethally remove a bear. This young bear here, 150-pound bear. It usually is the little ones that are the problem. The little ones, the young ones. We've had multiple 1- and 2-year-olds, about the same size, 150 to 200 pounds. They're just troublemakers, and they're fast-moving. And this one, you can see the house up there. So he was out on the upper gate. He was going and running in circles up there, round and round, when my sister looked out the window. And that's, right off of the house. So, she stepped out because she saw that her cat was out there, and she saw the cat was in danger, and so she stepped out to try to call the cat in. And I was still looking out the window, and this bear started swinging his head side to side real low and coming toward the porch. And I told her, you need to get back in. She said, well, I'm trying to get the cat. I said, leave the cat alone. And so she came back in, and the bear kind of continued to kind of come forward, and he stood up on his hind legs and all this kind of stuff, and then eventually he decided maybe this wasn't worth it, and he ran off. But he was really close to the house. This bear was running through the property. He would start back here behind that maple, and then he'd go back behind the kid pen through the woods, and then he'd go back behind the adult goat pen, and then he'd go break into the ducks. And this was just his routine for the day. And he was running the whole way. As apparently he had an appointment with the ducks. I don't know. The ducks are really, really good predator attractants. They're noisy, they're smelly, and it's just predators like to eat them for some reason. It's actually the only thing we've ever lost to a predator is ducks. And the only thing, other than mink. We had a mink attack twice. But they came and ate our loose animals that were out. They've broken into the ducks lots and lots of times. They've never taken anything out of the duck pen, but when we had ducks loose, they ate those. So we had to lethally remove this one because he just wouldn't stop. And you do need to be prepared for that. If you don't want to use a firearm, and he's got a pretty good nail on him for such a small bear, if you don't want to use a firearm, a crossbow or something like that would be good. If it's legal in your area, or a compound bow, use something that's heavy enough duty that it can be lethal. But if you don't want to do lethal, then you need to enact it. Even if you do not mind doing lethal, you need to enact all predator removal and predator dissuasion tactics that you can. And keep a dog around. The dogs will let you know if there's a bear. And they cannot necessarily drive off the bear because bears aren't scared of dogs anymore. But you do want to be aware of its presence, and they'll let you know, yeah, that wasn't a mouse you just heard in the brush, that was a bear. Because we'll be walking down this road here, and we'll hear a little rustle in the brush below these apple trees at night when we're coming down to milk. And the dog says it's a a bear, and we thought it was a mouse. So it's nice to have some dogs that know what they're doing, and I've actually taught the dogs the word bear, so that when they smell a bear, and you're going to be able to smell your bears if they're around, and also you can see from our one video, I've got a bear track on there. We've had a 150-pound one hanging out. You can be able to smell them. Sometimes they'll smell like garbage. Sometimes they smell like maple flavored bacon. I don't know why, but usually that's the female that smells like that. And you're also going to be looking out for bears based on what the crows are doing. The crows have a caustic cry that says there's a predator. So those are the best dissuasion tactics I've seen. You can also employ stuff like barbed wire on a high fence. Angle it so like you would see at a prison. Angle it outward so the bear can't just clamber over it. And the harder you make it for them, the better it'll go. They were breaking into the one duck pen particularly, and we lifted up the chicken wire because he was crushing it down every day, and we put a rim around it of wood, just like this is, and he stopped because it was just enough dissuasion that he didn't come anymore. But yeah, this has been taking care of black bears on the homestead, lethally or non-lethally. Do the best we can to protect what we have so that we don't have any losses.